Breaking news, Donald Trump is now holding a rally in the state of New Mexico, in the city of Albuquerque, as he seeks to expand the Electoral College map. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And Donald Trump is now holding a rally in the state of New Mexico, where my forecast currently has him winning by just 0.3%. And if he were to win the state, he would effectively win the entire election and even make states like Virginia, Maine at large, competitive in the Electoral College map. And so looking at the national aggregate, he's actually ahead by 0.1% as of right now. He finally took the lead over Kamala Harris just yesterday in the RCP aggregate. The Kamala Harris campaign is now in panic mode, and they are frailing as Donald Trump gains momentum in the final week of the general election. Usually when candidates win a presidential election, the states that tend to be battlegrounds or are very narrow tend to kind of all break in a certain direction. I updated my national aggregate today, and I found that New Hampshire has gone back into Kamala Harris's column, albeit very narrowly, but states like Minnesota and New Mexico are still tilt Republican in this forecast. The campaign must notice that Donald Trump's gaining with Hispanics nationwide is actually going to show up in a place like New Mexico even before New Hampshire. Basically, what I think the campaign has actually noticed is that New Mexico might actually be an easier flip than a state like New Hampshire, which is something that I've actually suspected for a while. New Hampshire has a lot of Boston, voters, a lot of Massachusetts, voters that have kind of moved over there and have kind of taken their voting patterns with them. However, the voter registration in New Hampshire is a Republican +5 advantage compared to the 1-point lead they had just 4 years ago. So it's still going to be a close state. But a state like New Mexico, where Donald Trump on average performs better with the Hispanic voters in that state in particular, better than the nationwide vote. And the fact that he's gaining like 15 points with Hispanics nationwide is definitely going to help him win a state like New Mexico a lot more easier than a place like New Hampshire that has a lot more left-leaning implants that are now in the state. So it is very interesting to see that my model is picking that up. And as of for all we know, New Hampshire is not on Donald Trump's schedule, but New Mexico is. So it seems like the campaign is noticing the same thing that I'm noticing, where New Mexico might actually be a slightly easier flip for Donald Trump than New Hampshire may be, as crazy as that sounds. And we have a 327 to 211 Electoral College map as of right now. They're going to be going back and forth over the next couple days. The states that are basically within the tilt margin, I'll be kind of deciding where I want to put them, just because since they're going to be so close at that point, somebody has to kind of intervene to actually classify the states themselves. And I'm not even sure I'm going to have Minnesota going red in my final map. I don't really know, because the state is trending to the left, and a lot of people seem convinced that it may not flip Republican. However, Republicans in Inford model data are up in the early in-person voting, which is really, really good stuff out of the state of Minnesota. So that makes me a little bit more confident in the state. But I may leave the model alone and see what happens. But it's very possible that I switch Minnesota going blue and New Hampshire going red, which would be a pretty interesting map, because at that point, you would effectively have a 321 Electoral College victory win for Donald Trump. It would be kind of an interesting map, because it would be a very unorthodox map where he's losing Minnesota, but he wins New Hampshire and New Mexico. So we'll be seeing where I classify those states in the next week. Virginia and Maine, as well as Nebraska second, they're going to be close, but I don't think they're at the point where they are to flip. Now, maybe I am underestimating him in a place like Maine and Virginia. It's possible that I am at this rate, especially with the fact that Glenn Youngkin basically put it in so there's only paper ballots in the state of Virginia. So that's something that's kind of interesting. Apparently, there's a paper ballot only measure in Virginia, and the fact that he's the Republican governor basically telling everybody that the state is competitive, it may actually help Donald Trump potentially come over the finish line there. So he's not completely ruled out of there, and he's not ruled out of Maine and Nebraska second either. So it's possible that I get those wrong, but it's also possible I get Minnesota and New Mexico wrong. Like, it is possible that I get a couple of these incorrect. But as for Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, I project that they're all going to be victories for Trump. And the model does show them all over 5-point wins. So he's actually winning them all fairly easily as of right now. So that is pretty interesting to say none the least. He's literally winning all of them in the range of like basically 5 to like 7 points as of right now. That's kind of where they are. 5 to 8 points is the range of all of these battleground states. I believe all the Rust Belt states are about 6. Georgia and Arizona are like 7. Nevada's about like 5, and North Carolina's about 8. That's kind of what we're looking at right now in terms of the battleground states. And so looking at the electoral map, guys, I mean, if New Mexico goes Republican, at that point, the election's effectively over. Even if Georgia were to go red, in North Carolina, Donald Trump would already be the favorite to win the election. And if he basically won Pennsylvania, it would be incredibly difficult for Kamala Harris to eke it out anywhere else, which she wouldn't really be able to, because at that point, she would have been locked out of the Electoral College with the 270 scenario right here. You see, this is the path that the former president, and I guess the campaign, has realized is actually his easiest path. We'll be kind of filling in the map here, but we'll see very, very quickly that there is, in fact, a scenario where he does actually get 270 in a very, very weird kind of way, where he actually gets it through Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. That's kind of what the campaign has been noticing. If he flips Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, if he flips those 3, he automatically gets to the 270 threshold that he needs in order to win the White House. And so here at On Point Politics, we'll actually be able to kind of call these states depending on how big his leads are, depending on, you know, what state they're in, if they're outperforming our expectation model. We'll probably be able to call those states very quickly. And if we can call Pennsylvania, we're going to call Wisconsin. And so even if like Alaska or like Montana or Utah, I mean, if some of these are not even called because of the time zones and whatnot, if they're not called, like let's say Idaho's not even called yet because of like a time zone thing, then even like he'll still be over 270, because if he's winning Pennsylvania that early in the night, we're going to call Wisconsin for him automatically, and we'd probably even call Michigan for him too. So it kind of depends on where he's at on election night, but we'd probably be calling those states already for him as of right now. And so it's very interesting. His path to the White House is very, very easy. It's not hard. I mean, Georgia, North Carolina at this point, I wouldn't even put him in the light blue or the light red category. I'd probably put him, like at that point, I'm pretty much confident he's going to win those. Even if he were to somehow lose the election, I'd be confident that he wins Georgia and North Carolina anyway. Those would be like the 2 states that if Harris were to somehow win the election, I don't even think those would break to him. And it's even possible that Arizona doesn't even break to her, or even Nevada. Like, she may really only have this one path up here, which is the Rust Belt path. And based on the way that the Trump campaign's behaving, it doesn't really seem like that's going to be the case. And so looking at this, Donald Trump's expanding the electoral map in the final week. He's going to New Mexico on Halloween, and in Virginia, he's going on November 2nd, guys. Literally the last Saturday of the election. He's going to Virginia on the last Saturday of the election. How crazy is that, guys? That is absolutely insane. I think the state's going to come down to an absolute wire. It's going to be very close, probably a 1 to 2 point win for Harris. It's not going to be the 10-point win that it was, but he's still in play here. Don't be mistaken. He can actually win Virginia. There is a hypothetical scenario where he could actually narrowly pick off the state of Virginia, depending on where we're underestimating him or not. And you may see, I'm going to say this right now, you may see a big shift in the model depending on whether or not I decide to lean it left or right, because right now the model is kind of just leaning its own way. But based on how early voting data looks like, based on the consensus analysis between me, Gold Crown Politics, and a lot of political experts and analysts that I talk to, I may be deciding to lean my forecast a point left or right. And so if we see that right now, for example, I have Trump winning Florida by 13.5, the mail-in and early voting in that state's already R plus 11. I may be underestimating him in Florida, but it won't make any sense for me to just have Florida safe R, like only adjust the results in Florida, because if he's winning Florida by more than I'm thinking, he's probably doing better nationwide, especially considering the fact that New Jersey early vote is only like D+1 right now, which is actually completely crazy. The combined early vote in New Jersey with the mail-ins is D+1, guys. That is absolutely insane to see out of the state of New Jersey, which means that it is going to be like around 6 to 8 points like I am projecting for Kamala Harris. So we are in for a pretty interesting election night. It's going to be very interesting to see how this unfolds. Right now, I'm very confident Donald Trump's going to win the election fairly easily, but we will be covering the election and whatnot. And by the way, I do have a very big announcement coming on Tuesday in regards to my plans for election night. So you guys will be getting a full-blown video on that. There will be a full video announcing my plans for election night. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe. If you want more content just like this, make sure to follow me on X, where I give daily updates on my political forecast. And make sure to go ahead and go to the description down below and go to betonline.com, where you can look at the latest betting odds for the presidency, as well as the individual battleground states, the House of Representatives, and the Senate elections. I will see you guys in the next video.